Hello, Laura Jurd. Welcome to
Hey.
Interval Interview number 19.
Hello.
Where are you in the world?
I am in Greenwich in southeast London
Okay.
in my second floor flat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how you actually off the ground?
So,
And have you always lived in southeast London, or are you from anywhere else?
no, I'm from Hampshire so south of England. I'm from a little village called Medstead, which is near a town called Alton in Hampshire. Yeah, so it's not too far away. It's like in the car it would take like an hour and 45 minutes to get from Greenwich to there. So
Was there a sort of point when you moved to the Big Smoke, and was that a big deal?
yeah, well, I moved. It's a similar old story to lots of people. I moved because I went to Trinity Laban Conservatoire of Music and Dance. That's what it's now called. When I went there, it was called Trinity College of Music, and that is it's in Greenwich now, in the old
Right.
Royal Naval College building.
And how did you get into playing jazz?
I played piano from a very young age. I grew up with a piano in the house, like many people do, and I loved to play it, just naturally. I just really enjoyed it. And I loved to make things up and improvise and compose little tunes. And I started having piano lessons with this really great teacher when I was really quite young, about 5 years old, and they were really brilliant. And I was just lucky that they lived in my area, and I ended up having lessons with them until I was 18, actually, but mainly like classical piano. But they really recognised that I was into improvising, and jazz music is a really great home. Obviously, it's such a big word, isn't it, jazz? But as far as improvising is concerned, they recognised that I may well enjoy playing jazz music, so started to play some kind of jazz style pieces on the piano, and then started to learn to improvise a little bit. My teacher wasn't a jazz pianist as such, but knew a lot about jazz and just her general musicianship. It was really incredible. So she taught me a lot, and when I started playing trumpet in primary school, I started improvising on that as well. So yeah, that was the beginning.
So you didn't did you hear it at home, or you were turned on to it more by teachers, like?
Yeah, more by teachers. Actually, my dad was having piano lessons when I was little as well. So we were kind of having piano lessons together, one after the other.
I used to be a doctor. Well,
oh, wow. Well,
Well, no, I
brilliant.
mean, there's this idea in it's a sort of macho idea in surgery, with respect to operations, where it's watch one, do one, teach one. So.
Yeah.
You see someone do it, and then you do it yourself, and then you're ready to teach somebody it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that kind of idea of, as a parent, doing a piano lesson and then teaching your kid it the next week. But if they get better than you much faster, you're kind of scunnered.
He did have a little period of, glory for a few.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he clings on to that golden age.
Yeah.
Now, I sort of first heard about you with Dinosaur, because I know Corrie, and
Yeah.
We have a sort of, in Scotland, we have a bunch of people that we are proud of that have gone on, like Rachel Cohen and Corrie are two that spring to mind, gone down to London and seem to do really well, and Callum Gourlay and and how did you meet up with him, and how did Dinosaur come about, which is a fantastic band?
Oh, yeah, thank you. I met Corrie at the music college I studied at, so Trinity, here in Greenwich. He was in the year below me. We're the same age, but just worked out, he was in the year below me. And so I met him and everyone else in Dinosaur also at Trinity. So we just started playing together as a band there. Just it all just clicked, and we grew, as musicians together, learnt a lot from one another. And I have a little bit of a connection to Scotland, in the sense I'm like half Scottish, and because my mum is Scottish, she's from Edinburgh. She's been living in England for most of her life, as an adult. But so I'm often going up to Edinburgh to visit family. I've got aunties and cousins, and used to have grandparents when they were still around.
I mean, it's one of the reasons for. I mean, it's quite an interesting thing that about one of the reasons to go to music college. Obviously, is to learn to play, but you quite often meet your kind of major collaborators there. And why is it do you think so many people kind of form these really tight groups in college and stay together?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's one of the best things about going to music college, actually. And I think it's you've got this sort of invaluable time where you don't necessarily have the pressures of, you're in this kind of student transitionary phase between, leaving school and being like an adult, whatever that is. And
I'm still in that transition phase.
Yeah, I think I'm still in the transition, but as well. But you've got this, you don't, you can just, in terms of your time and responsibilities, you can spend a lot of it just developing your skills. You've got this sort of luxury of time and facility to do so. So places to rehearse all the time, whenever you want. Because of that, you can just really, really go deeply into playing music and making music and practicing together, working things out, listening to music together. I know, it's very exciting when you go to music college, because you're meeting people that are into the same things you're into, and you can learn about so much new music from one another, and it's like the first time this has happened, so you're kind of meeting so many kindred spirits, so that inevitably accelerates your musical development so quickly.
Yeah. And who was teaching there? Was anybody that really influenced you, or in particular from the teaching?
Yeah, I mean, there was lots of great teachers. I mean, Simon Purcell, the great piano player, was head of jazz at the time, and he's just a born educator, I'd say. He's so inspiring.
I've watched Simon. He's amazing. He's wonderful.
Yeah, and so many people, I think, in UK jazz have benefited from his sort of wisdom, I think, and even philosophically and stuff. He's just so brilliant, and so. Yeah, it was really nice having him head the course, and I was really lucky to have 4 years. My entire 4 years there were with my one-to-one trumpet teacher was Chris Batchelor.
Oh, cool.
who is. I suspected it before I turned up that we would click and it would work, and I would be really excited by everything he had to say, and he would be a really good fit for me as a student, and it kind of exceeded my expectations, I guess, and I love his playing, and I try to see him play when I can now. I have the good fortune of playing. We actually started this band, this 2-trumpet band recently, where we were kind of playing lots of Ornette Coleman tunes, which is really great because he knows so much about that music, and it's a great, as well as so much other music. I think that's what excited me about Chris, because he knows about jazz, but his just general knowledge of music is so broad that.
Don't you think there's this sort of paradox though about jazz education, is that you may not get this angle on it until you're older, but you give away these hard-won secrets to these young fuckers that have just showed up, and they nick all your great stuff, and then they get really good really fast, and then they're usually better looking or more photogenic than you've become, and then they start getting all these gigs and everything, and then you're sitting there going, was that a good idea? I maybe shouldn't have given them everything.
Yeah, it is fun, isn't it? It's interesting talking. I'm of the opinion that you should just give everything away.
I don't worry about this anyway. I agree with you, the giving it all away.
Yeah.
But there are sometimes I've had situations with students where there's a thing about Elvin Jones that I've been studying him for 30 years, and I'm still trying to work it all out. And then you'll spend 3 weeks talking to them about Elvin Jones, and then I kind of go, yeah, I kind of got that. Can we move on to something else now? And it's like, you little bastard! No, you haven't got it. You haven't.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah.
The stuff I've shown you, it's taken me 30 years to get it to that point, or being able to explain even the bit that I understand, and then you're sort of going, oh. And there's something about that part of education that sometimes it depends on the student.
Yeah.
It can be like and this particular student, I just stopped teaching him because he drove me nuts.
Yeah.
Because
It's interesting. I think possibly with Chris, like his lessons, he would always talk about what he was checking out or interested in at the time. Obviously, if I had anything specific I wanted to like work on or talk about, he was available to like help with that. But he would always, and it was sort of like his stuff. Here's a way of thinking about something, or check out this music, or I've been, and have a lesson exploring it a little bit, and it's sort of just like something for then. Maybe a couple of the things he talked about would really, really resonate with me. And like still today, I'm still on that journey of like,
yeah, right.
But it's like, I mean, just going back to like Ornette's music, like I feel like I'm in some sort of second, sorry, it sounds like coronavirus talk or something. I'm in the second wave of my Ornette kind of journey. Because I feel like at first, I'd heard his music before, but then I kind of I got more of an insight into it from like having lessons with Chris, like, and because he's a real aficionado when it.
I toured with supporting Ornette with Tommy Smith, and I was in this band with Tommy Smith and Mike Walker and Mick Hutton, and we were not advertised as being the support, so we did a gig at the festival hall to about 3,000 people, and they're all expecting to see Ornette Coleman, and we came out for the first set, which was kind of like, oh, and every gig, we did about 6 gigs, every gig Ornette tuned his violin through our sound check. So they would do their sound check, like take ages, but then we would have like half an hour to do ours, but he would spend half an hour tuning his violin, which obviously he played in a completely atonal fashion.
Yeah, I find that quite amusing that he tuned it,
And so every gig we were going on with no sound check or anything, but it was amazing to be around his energy.
And it's mind blowing to me, like whatever context you hear, an artist like that, it's like whatever context you put them in, they deliver this unique thing that could only be them, and I find that so exciting. I can't remember what it was actually, and I always wish I did, but I heard this like kind of rock band, and I don't even know who they were or anything, but there was like something like 8 or 16 bars of Ornette Coleman playing a solo just in the middle of this tune, and it was just like so cool. It was just like 8 bars, and it's just something perfect, like just plopped in.
So I could talk about Ornette all day. So that's wonderful.
It's gone.
I just wanted to ask you about Martin Green, who obviously lives in Pathhead.
Yes.
He's quite a guy.
What a guy, yeah. Well, I'm going to say, without wanting to flatter him too much, you've got to keep accordion players.
We don't want to big him up too much because he'll get above his station, and.
But, yeah, exactly. But he's definitely. I'm very happy that I've met. He's one of the more recent artists that have sort of entered my life, and I'm so happy that he has. He's brilliant and sort of reeled me into his musical world in a very nice way. I'm very happy he has. But to a few quite random things which have actually suited me so wonderfully. It's like. Yeah, it just seems to work. I really like how he thinks about making music, and I like to think of myself as quite a flexible musician. And
have you played much folk music with folk musicians?
Yeah, I haven't at all, but I've listened to it, and it's something I'm kind of naturally drawn to.
We for about 6 years Martin and I have been putting on these free improv gigs in our village hall because we both live in the same village, and and when we first started doing that, he was quite nervous about free improv at that point, right at the beginning. He hadn't done a huge amount of it, and over those years, he's just become this incredibly broad musician who obviously he's a master traditional musician, but he can do all this stuff with electronics and completely comfortable with free improv, and not a jazzer, you know. So there's none of that
Yeah.
bebop pollution in there. It's just kind of, which is really interesting that there's these folkies that are now becoming very developed improvisers, but without that kind of color. So it's there's a completely different kind of cultural art base to their improvisational exploration and electronics and all those other things, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for doing the interview, and thank you very much for joining us next week. And we're really looking forward to it. And I'm going to say goodbye and then not hang up so I can talk to you about arrangements.
Of course. Sounds
So anyway,
like a good plan. Yeah.
See you
See
next
you
week.
later. Yeah. See you, Tom. Thanks.
Right, I'm going to stop recording. That's great.